this movie is showing you 9/11 2 years before 9/11.
Nobody knows that they saw it, but they did.
A nice big cock.
One of the reasons that I believe in a higher force, a higher power, some sort of divinity, is because there have been just such incredible coincidences in my life that I can't find any other explanation. You know, sometimes I just feel compelled to do something. And then shortly after, I feel compelled to do another thing. And those two things, by some weird twist of fate, just happen to coincide in such unique and mysterious ways that, to me, there is just no other answer other than there is a greater force guiding myself and the rest of us. Take, for example, the other day, actually about 2 weeks ago, I felt compelled to read this book yet again. This book by A. Ralph Epperson, The New World Order. And I've skimmed through it before, but I've never really read it. Like, I've never, sat down with a pen and, really read through it and highlighted the important points. So, a couple of weeks ago, I decided to do just that. Now, I'm going to say right off the bat right now, this book isn't that well written. To me, it's actually really poorly written. It's kind of a drag to read through, because it's sort of redundant in a lot of ways. He does a lot of repeating himself, and it's just hard to really sit down and read and enjoy reading it. It's something that while you're reading it, you have to want to read it, because you're not going to get much enjoyment from reading it. But anyway, long story short, while reading it, I decided to highlight this section. I believe this is early on in the book, probably page 27 if I'm not mistaken. And this quote comes from Manly P. Hall. It comes from Manly P. Hall's book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. And Manly P. Hall, for those of you who don't know, is a 33rd degree Mason. But whatever, that doesn't matter at all. What matters, though, is this quote. The arcana of the ancient mysteries were never revealed to the profane, except through the media of symbols. Symbols fulfilled the dual office of concealing the sacred truths from the uninitiated and revealing to those qualified to understand the symbols. So let's take this quote and look at Fight Club. Before I look at the clips in this movie, let's look at some coincidental dates related to this movie. So, did you know that Fight Club was originally released in Venice on September 10th, 1999? Now, of course, this is going to be important because the symbols that we're going to be seeing in this movie, the what some people refer to as predictive programming, relates to 9/11. So, it was first released in Venice on September 10th, 1999, basically 2 years and 1 day before the day. And actually, I am just realizing this right now during the editing process, that this is actually, when it's looked at the way that people look at dates in Venice and I guess the rest of the world, it's 1999-09-10. And of course, if you flip that upside down, you get an interesting number. But I mean, 666-06-10, I guess it stays the same, but even if you flip this upside down and reverse it, you get the 01. So you get actually 666-901. I'm fucking just playing with the numbers there. Could be that weed I just smoked. Then it was released in the United States on October 15th, 1999. I mean, that's quite a drastic difference in release dates, if you ask me. And then what's even more interesting is that it was released then in Germany on November 11th, 1999. I mean, of course, you have the upside down sixes there. You have the 11. You have the September 10th, of course. And actually, I just fucking noticed this. I mean, if we're fucking smoking weed and playing with numbers here, if you fucking flip this all backwards and fucking fuck with this number here, you get 6661111. Like, really emphasizing the 11. So I don't know, I guess, like, if you fucking are really part of, like, the club, or, like, if you're one of these initiated ones, then fucking, you might actually have been able to figure out the exact date of 9/11 just from these fucking dates. I mean, I guess, once again, hindsight, fucking smoking weed, having fun, nothing too serious, but they're very interesting dates, if you ask me. Am I fucking, playing with myself here? Probably. It's very possible. But anyway, let's look at something else. So, the kind of, it's not a subtitle. I don't know what you would refer to this as. I guess it's, the movie phrase, or I don't know what this is referred to here. Mischief, mayhem, and soap. Oh, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But the movie, it was basically the way that it was advertised. It was advertised as this mischief, mayhem, and soap. I guess that's how, like, they would summarize it. Mischief, mayhem, and soap. Now, what's interesting is if you look at the definition for mischief, if you look at the playfulness definition, playfulness that is intended to tease, mock, or create trouble. I like the tease and mocking portion of this, because that's actually what it seems like this movie is doing. It seems like it's actually teasing or mocking the audience. It's using these symbols. It's using the media of symbols to both conceal the sacred truths that it's actually being revealed. Actually, it's not a sacred truth, but it is a truth that is being revealed. There's a message here that is obviously meant for a qualified group, and it's a message that's clearly being hidden from the uninitiated. So let's just look at this, okay? Because I know I'm just gonna fuck this up. I'm gonna confuse it if I continue down this current path. So let's look at what the movie starts off with. This is the very beginning of the movie. This is the very first sentence spoken in the movie.
People are always asking me if I know Tyler Durden.
3 minutes. This is it. Ground zero.
3 minutes. This is it. Ground zero. Now, when 9/11 happened, that's exactly what they referred to the Twin Towers where they fell down at, was ground zero. That's where they referred to it everywhere. This is ground zero. Now, of course, the Pentagon wasn't ground zero. No. Ground zero has become synonymous with the 9/11 World Trade Center attack site. And this is kind of weird because ground zero used to be used for, like, the site of a nuclear explosion. Somewhere where it's a singular event, a singular explosion, a singular attack. It makes very, very, very little sense to refer to ground zero as ground zero. First of all, there was multiple grounds there, technically. You had Building 7 go down, right? Don't forget about Building 7. And you had both towers go down. Those are 2 different sites. Well, 3 different sites. And then, of course, in the same time, you also had the Pentagon attacked. Wait a second, which one is ground zero? And, of course, you had the plane go down in Pennsylvania. Don't forget about that plane. Might want to look into what was said about that plane and its crash site. So, it doesn't even make sense to call ground zero. But yet, ground zero has become synonymous with what we're about to see here in Fight Club. And of course, 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Of course, we got the number 3 there. Now, it gets even better. So there's like a little something else is said, and then immediately after that, this is said.
I can't think of anything.
For a second, I totally forget about Tyler's whole controlled demolition thing, and I wonder how clean that gun is.
For a second, I forget about Tyler's whole controlled demolition thing. Controlled demolition thing. I mean, really? Now check this out. It gets better.
It's getting exciting now.
That old saying, how you always hurt the one you love? Well, it works both ways.
So then he says, that old saying, you always hurt the one you love. Well, it works both ways. Which means the one you love always hurts you. You know, this is, of course, a perfect reference to the government. You know, to that which people are patriotic about. It's very, very, very cleverly worded. And not just that, it's actually, if you think about the whole Tyler Durden scenario here, Tyler Durden is him. But it's like not him, it's his imaginary him, which is the government. We like to imagine, or at least we're told, oh no, we're the government is your representative, or you're represented in the government. You know, it's a government by the people, for the people, of the people. It's like, no, it's all fucking imaginary, and these people don't really serve us. These people are actually evil. They are masquerading as us, or like we like to imagine that they're us, but they're not. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure I screwed that up, but Tyler Durden is the government. He is this imaginary being, this social construct. He's not. They're not. I mean, of course they're real, and I'm not an anarchist, but I'm sure you all know what I mean. Like what they're actually saying here. Tyler Durden is the government. But anyway, let this continue. Now, of course, this is the beginning scene. And then this scene, it's picked up later at the end of the movie. Like Fight Club, it starts like at the end, and then it goes back in time, and it basically like informs the audience of all of the things that happened before this. And then at the very end of the movie, you have these explosions. Now, of course, these two towers here that explode, what do they look like? Now, of course, they don't look like the Twin Towers, but look at them. They are basically twin towers. They are twins of one another. And of course, right before this, you had buildings here, and all of these other buildings fell down, leaving just these two, really emphasizing the similarity between these two. And then they fall, I mean, just like, of course, they fall controlled demolition style. Now, what else is very interesting is the bombs that are used to take down these buildings, they're like in trucks, or they're in vans that are in the basement of the building. And I guess in the basement, and I guess clearly the way that they blow up, there's also probably bombs put throughout the building. But what's very interesting is that the bombs in the basement inside the vans is identical to the first attack on the Twin Towers. What year was that? Like 1993? In 1993, when they first tried taking down the towers, they had bombs in the basement inside of vans. Now, I'm curious, I don't know the exact explosives that were used in the first attacks. Like, I don't know what explosives they had inside the vans, but it would be very curious if they used the same sort of explosives that are used in this movie. I believe they use nitroglycerin in Fight Club. And I guess I should have done a little bit more research and looked into, what explosives were used in the first attacks. But to me, I find it very interesting, very coincidental, this whole setup. Now, of course, there's other things that are said in the movie. Like, there's this scene right here that I find very interesting. I find it very telling. Because I feel like this is sort of what happened right after 9/11. Let's watch this next scene. Let's listen to it, and then I'll elaborate upon it.
We call them cigarette burns.
That's the cue for a changeover. He flips the projectors, movie keeps right on going, and nobody in the audience has any idea.
Cigarette burns. That's the cue for a changeover.
Flips the projectors, movie keeps right on going, and nobody in the audience has any idea.
Flips the projectors, the movie keeps right on going, and no one has any idea. It's exactly like what they did. You know, I mean, society was heading in one direction. I mean, the culture before 9/11 was so very different. And then, boom, there's a cigarette burn. They switch the projectors. They switch up the story. They switch up the direction society is heading. And nobody is the wiser. Very incredible stuff. To me, this is so obviously a way of talking to the initiated and a way of basically hiding the truth from the uninitiated. Or, I'm sorry, it's a way of revealing the truth in such a manner that the uninitiated do not understand it, but those who are initiated do understand it. And and actually, what's incredible is that even this scene now has completely different meaning, because in the grand scheme of things, like, this scene has very little purpose. It's just supposed to, like, be for a comedic element. You know, in this scene, it's like, oh yeah, he works as a night projector at night, and he does it only so that he can cut penises into the film. Like, that's his only reason of wanting to do this job. But that's exactly what they're doing here. They're showing a perverted truth, and they're doing it in such a clever way that, as they say in this scene,
Nobody knows that they saw it, but they did.
A nice big cock.
and it's weird. It shows a little girl crying, and it's like,
Even a hummingbird couldn't catch Tyler at work.
just a really fucked up scene. And really, when you watch it, it seems like its only purpose is for fun, for entertainment, to make the audience laugh. Or, you know, possibly to show how sick this person is, how psychotic they are, how much of a psychopath Tyler Durden is. That he wants to do this. He wants to go and cut penises into the films that little kids are going to go see. Because I believe that he does this in, like, Snow White. He like, lists off a couple names.
Why would anyone want this shit job?
Because it affords him other interesting opportunities.
Like splicing single frames of pornography into family films?
And, you know, that in itself is revealing a little truth about Disney. But when you look at it like this, it kind of gives a whole new meaning to the whole structure. And it's saying that this is actually what Fight Club is doing. They're putting a truth in there in such a clever way, in just such a sly way that people don't even realize that they're seeing it. It's right in their face. This movie is showing you 9/11 2 years before 9/11. I mean, it's crazy. Like, this is like a whole nother level, if you ask me. So 9/11 was like a cigarette burn. And it's weird, too, because, of course, it was, you know, you had fire on 9/11. And, of course, they say the reason for the buildings falling was due to fire. And, of course, you can never question the official narrative. I am not questioning the official narrative. The buildings fell due to fire, goddammit. And if you think otherwise, then you're some crazy conspiracy theorist. Now, there's this other scene. Honestly, I have this other scene queued up here. I have no idea. I completely forgot what's in this other scene. So I'm going to just play this next scene, and I'm sure it'll come to me.
Tell me he's too young. Old, too old, fat, too fat.
Applicant?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. This scene, this scene, too. Of course, we have more threes in this scene. Okay, check this out.
Tell me he's too young. Old, too old, fat, too fat.
Applicant?
If the applicant then waits for 3 days without food, shelter, or encouragement, he may then enter and begin his training.
So if the applicant waits 3 days without food, shelter, or encouragement, so you got the 3 days, and then you list off the 3 things, then they can come in. You know, then they can be part of their little Operation Mayhem or whatever.
Training.
Okay, training for what?
Training for what? And of course, that's another thing in the movie is that, like, I forget this character's name. He's not Tyler Durden, but yeah, this guy, he's like kind of like, he seems like out of the loop like the whole time. It's like, what is this Project Mayhem? He asked that, and they're like, no, the first rule of Project Mayhem is you do not ask questions. The second rule of Project Mayhem is you do not ask questions. They have this whole like, mystery thing going on there. Now, of course, the other thing that this movie does is it indoctrinates the viewer, it indoctrinates the audience into sort of a nihilistic frame of mind, where they're like,
you are not special. You are not a beautiful or unique snowflake. You are the same decaying organic matter as everything else.
You're not special. You're not a beautiful or unique snowflake. You're the all dancing, or no, you're the all singing, all dancing shit of the world, I believe is what they say.
We are the all singing, all dancing crap of the world. We are all part of the same compost heap.
And then what's interesting though is that here, is it here? No, it's not here. It's the next clip that I have here. Now, the other clip that I want to look at is this clip here. So this is like I'm not Tyler Durden. This is this guy, this character, whatever. He's looking at all this stuff. This is when Project Mayhem has started, and they have these papers in the back here. Now, what's interesting is that later on in the movie, these are supposed to be like addresses. These are like the names of buildings that they're going to be planting the explosives in, and that's what they turn out to be later on. But right here, and I know the quality is piss poor here, but this says disinformation. So this shows that, like, they have this campaign of disinformation, and this is never elaborated on in the movie. But I find it really interesting that they put it here, because of course they use disinformation. They have all of their shills online and all throughout the media using disinformation to discredit the truth. So I find it very interesting. You got just right there, I don't know what it says beneath it. Underneath it, it looks like it says maybe... Oh, actually, it says mischief. So you have disinformation and mischief. Now, of course, I wish I had a better copy of this, but I can't find this movie on a streaming service that has a better quality version of it. But anyway, I don't know. This is some stuff that I noticed while rewatching, while revisiting this movie. And to me, it's fucking crystal clear, but that's because
My eyes are open.